Hello, this is Melvin Black, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to create dashboards using Excel. Excel represents Microsoft's most common tool for dashboard development, and I'm going to demonstrate how it's done. To begin, we first start in Excel. And since we need data, I'm going to go into my Data tab and select Existing Connections. I'm going to use my data set called Tom's Diner, and I'm going to select Open. At the Import Data dialog box, I'm going to leave the default settings because I want to create a pivot table report, and I'm going to select OK. Now that I have my pivot table fields and I specify the location where I want my pivot table, I want to select some measures here. I want to look at my menu items, and I also want to look at the amount of sales, or actually percentage of sales. And I want to look at that from a specific dimension, and in this case I'm going to select my menu hierarchy, and as you can see it's here, and I'm showing a little bit more detail by drilling down using my data set that has a menu item hierarchy. Now I also want to add a little bit more information about this pivot table, so I'm going to insert a row here, and I'm going to size it a bit, and let me add another row as well, and let me size it here. And I like to create titles when I'm creating dashboards, so I'm going to merge and center here, and I'm going to insert a text box, or actually I can just ignore the text box and I could add in the name. So I'll just call this menu summary. Spell it right, and I'm going to increase the size, and I'm also going to clear out this space because I want to add an areas specifically for my filter. So let me merge and center this, and I'll just add some shading just so I can know that that area is going to be used for something special. Now I'm going to add in my filters, and I'm going to use a slicer, so I'm going to do another insert, and I'm going to select slicer, and I'm going to specify Tom's Diner. Now I can also do that by selecting the pivot table, and I want to slice this by dining type, and I'm going to just select add slicer here. So I had two options, and I'm going to select it, use this option because it's a little bit easier. Now that I have my slicer here, and this is what I use to filter, as you can see I'm filtering my pivot table, I want to change the look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click it and select size and properties, and I want to use columns instead of rows, so I'm going to add 3 columns because there are 3 items here, and I'm going to size it a bit here, and I'm going to drag it in that area that I created just for my filters. Let me size it a bit. And I'm going to also make a slight change to the name under slicer settings, and just call it a customer dining experience, and it changes the name there. And now I can, it works as usual. Now I'm going to add in another slicer, and this time I'm going to use this option here, and actually let me close this out. Yeah, the slicer, and this time I want the slicer by category. Oh, actually, now I want to right click and add slicer. And again, I want the layout to be different, so I'm going to select slides and properties, and I'm going to use 7 columns because I have 7 items. Spread it out a bit. And now I have another slicer. It changes the dimensions. And let me size it a bit more. Okay, now I want to add another item to my dashboard. So this time I would prefer using a data set that is not impacted by the existing filters. Sorry, the existing data set. So I'm going to add in another data set, the same name. This time I want to do a graphical chart, so I'm going to do a pivot chart, and I'm going to add that, size a little bit, and I want this one to show sales data, and I want this to be, I want the perspective to be by the day of the week. Okay. And I also want a different type of design, so, sorry, different chart. I'd rather have a bar chart. Or actually, you know what, let's just keep it as is. I'll use a bar chart later. And as you see, when I select the filters, it does not impact my graphical chart because this is from a different data set, because I want to use different dimensions, and I didn't want these dimensions to be shared between this pivot table and this pivot chart. So in order for this filter to impact both of these objects, I have to make a setting change on my slicer, and I need to add chart 4 by selecting report connections. Now as you see, both of my objects change by the slicer. So let me change the size here so we can see all the selections. And I need to do the same thing for my customer dining experience slicer. So let me change it by going to report connections and add it in chart 4. And let me select all these items here so we can see them all. And now I want to add one more chart, which I also want it to be using its own data set. So again, I'm going to select data, existing connections, use my same Tom's Diners. I also want another chart, and I'm going to drag this chart down here, and I'm going to specify, actually this is too big, let me size this a bit. And this one I also want to see sales, but I want to see this sales by the location. So I'm going to select the address, and this one I want to use a different type of chart. I want to use a bar chart, so I'll change it to bar chart. And there I have it. And I want this also to be impacted by these filters. So I too have to make that change in report connections. And let's do the same thing for our dining experience. And if I want to change sort of the look and feel, and let me hide this, of these charts, I can select chart styles, and let's just use something that looks a little cleaner. And I'll do the same thing for my bar chart. And I don't need these titles because I can add my own. I'll just take this space and I'll just merge this Alright. Let's go to Home. And merge. Let's do the same for here as well. And you don't have to do this, but this does add a lot to its professionalism when you add titles to your charts. And I'm going to call this the week sales, and let's change the size of this. Let's center, increase the font, put it bold. I can change the colors. I can do that here as well. And let's call this location sales. And let's change the sizing of that. Center it. I can move this over. Slide this in a bit. And I can also clean it up a bit. I don't need these totals. I can just delete those. And I can remove these fill buttons. Give me more real estate. And now I have essentially a full functioning dashboard that was created in Excel. And this sort of concludes this dashboard design session. Thank you for viewing.